So the last couple episodes of this show, the last stream, the last full-length episode, we started off, and we've had to do the thing we don't like to do, the thing that we always root against. We had to give it to him. We had to give it to Donovan. We had to give it to the New York Knicks. And here we are again having to give it to him.
But guess what? I'm still not giving it to him.
Not giving him shit?
Asterisks.
Asterisks?
Yep.
Okay,
Didn't
listen,
count.
we're going to get to all that. However, we were up 9 whenever it happened. You know what I'm saying? And now, here we are, the New York Knicks up 3-1 on the Boston Celtics on the precipice of a conference finals. You guys don't understand what this means to me. I nearly fell to my knees in tears watching the Jalen Brunson masterclass last night, watching Mikal Bridges hit midi after midi after midi, because I was like, in the first time in my lifetime, I'm going to be able to watch the New York Knicks not even get to the final, not even be in the finals, but play for a chance to be in the finals. You understand?
Yeah.
You understand what this drought is? Last night was cinema, and we're here. And we're on the brink of greatness.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Knicks go to 3-1. We're going to talk... Honestly, this was a crazy weekend into Monday of news. We have Giannis potentially soft launching the trade saga, so feeling it out through Shams, seeing what the media is how they're going to react. We had the draft lottery. We had 2 series go to 3-1s in which massive favorites are down in that series. We had a ton of stuff going on. Low-key, it's not an exaggeration to say from Saturday through Sunday... The scope of the NBA just changed in a lot of ways.
Yes.
The hierarchy of power is changing.
100%.
And that's the best way to say it, bro.
But we got to start with the worst way. We had to start today with terrible news. In part of that series in which Donovan's Knicks went up 3-1, ended that last game with the Boston Celtics lost, Jason Tatum has officially ruptured his Achilles tendon. He's going to be out for obviously the whole of next season. It is reported that he actually got the surgery the day after it happened, which is crazy. I've never seen that kind of turnaround, but...
Damn.
It happened. He's out for the next season, probably year plus. And apparently he'll make a full recovery. The surgery went well, but obviously the entire scope of the Eastern Conference, the entire scope of the NBA, the scope of the Celtics franchise, the scope of this young superstar's career potentially has altered in the blink of an eye. What are y'all's first thoughts?
I mean, it's just like, you saw it and you're just like, damn.
Yeah.
Like that was just that's the only reaction that you have, especially because it happened on a play where he's not going to drive to the basket or to do anything. He's going to really just to foul OG Anunoby, because that play was over. OG, he jumped the passing lane, he got the steal, he got the dunk, all that. And so to see him go down when he was having one of the 3 best games, arguably the best game of his career, given the stakes, given the two-way dominance that he had last night, all the impact. You just look around and it's like, it just can't, it literally can't be that. Like, that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing what he did last night, and in the first quarter, first through third, and eventually when he went down, he was going ballistic, and he was playing phenomenal on all ends of the court. You're right. Like, this very well could be, so far, probably is the best game that he's ever played of his career. Whether it be from 3, he was wildly efficient, hitting the most, like, gutsy threes early in the shot clock from so far away and just smacking 3 after 3 after 3, and then seeing what he was doing facilitating the ball. Of course, like, we can talk about the defense, we can talk about his interior presence and all that. Like, he was all over the place, and this was the best version of Jason Tatum that we witnessed ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's just unfortunate. It's the best year of his career. They're coming off a championship. Good thing he got the championship before this occurred, so there's that, I guess. It's just unfortunate. This team is obviously in the most win-now mode you could possibly be. They're the most expensive team in the NBA. There was already looming cap issues coming this summer. There's been lots of smoke in the air that there's clearly fire in that new ownership came in. They bought this team. It's too expensive. They're going to have to shed one of KP or Drew. So when there's already questions in the air and you don't know what you're going to do with this core that has to win now and really has to win this year before somebody has to be moved, highly unfortunate that opportunity to go back-to-back is just robbed from them in the blink of an eye. Now, they're probably weren't going to win the series regardless. This game was kind of closed out before then, so maybe that's a little dramatic. But either way, you miss out on the rest of this run, what could have been a 3-1 comeback, and now you probably don't even have next year. So the question isn't even, is this sad? Is this so-and-so? Obviously, it's incredibly unfortunate for one of the young stars in the game to lose a calendar year of his career. I don't know where this team goes from here. They're in such a difficult spot with their core being so win now, but they just obviously cannot win now for at least next year.
Tatum's going to come back and the team's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Because they even if, like, let's say that they won this series and they went back to back, there's still a high possibility that they broke the team up. And so, and we've seen it before, teams that have won championships that haven't felt the need to run it back again, because this year was the year where they're like, this whole roster is expensive, but it's okay because you guys can do something special. You guys can do something that teams haven't done in the last 6-7 years. We haven't seen a repeat champion since the Warriors. And so to have that opportunity, and, like I said, now that it's gone, they were going to move off of people if they won or not. Yeah. And now that they're gone, these new owners are not going to walk in here and be like, yeah, we'll just keep this team and pay $600 million in payroll for vibes just so that everything can be the same. No.
Yeah.
2, maybe 3 of these players are going to be gone in the next year and a half.
I 100% agree. This injury, that was already going to happen. This injury just gave him even more case of reason to do exactly that. And looking forward, me personally, this injury sucks. But what makes the Celtics' future feel at least a little bit better is knowing that they have their first-round picks over the next 2 years. Now, after that, I think it's like 2029 or something like that. They owe the San Antonio Spurs their pick, going back from that
Derek White trade.
Exactly. And so it makes me feel better knowing that they're at least in control of their future for the next 2 years, but they're clearly going to have to reshuffle and remove some pieces and just be open to whatever and prepared for whatever version of Jason Tatum that you get back.
And even that, so obviously you got to wait, see if he gets back. I think we can be optimistic that he'll come back and be Jason Tatum again, right? He's obviously not the most.
Yeah, he just turned 27 years old a couple weeks ago.
We've seen players come back and be largely okay. There will be some remnant effects. It isn't a serious injury, but let's go ahead and give the benefit out. He'll be fine long term. They have to decide if, one, they want to go all in on a full 1 year teardown and kind of treat it like the Golden State Warriors did in that one tanking year when they won like 17 games, whatever it was, where you tank for 1 year, you get the number 2 pick that became James Wiseman, whatever that could be for them. You could do that, and you can say, we'll reload, take 1 year off, take advantage of us having control of our first-round picks, and then rebuild from there around Jason Tatum and around Jaylen Brown. But that's easier said than done. It's pretty hard to tear down to that level when you still have Jaylen Brown and still have Derek White. Even more of a reason you probably got to get rid of Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis as they're, the old money on the team. There's like a certain level of balance you got to strike in this short-term rebuild because you don't want to tear it down too far. But it kind of feels like they can tear this shit down to the studs and rebuild anew in the following year when Jason Tatum comes back.
And the Warriors, the Warriors, yes, they were in this position, but they didn't go into that season saying, yeah, we're going to be bad. Steph broke his hand 5 games into the year, right? Yeah. They were kind of thrust into that position. And so that, the year after that, whenever Steph came back and Klay once again got hurt, they were going out. They tried to make the playoffs. They were in the play-in, and they were going to rely on Steph Curry to try and just push this team as far as possible. That's what they were going to do. So unless the Celtics are, from the top down, going to say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that, and whenever Tatum gets back, then we'll have all these assets to rebuild. That's a different decision than what the Warriors did in a different situation.
I think Brad Stevens is the type of GM, though, that would do that proactive measure. Brad Stevens seems like he's the type that's going to make... I feel good trusting him to make the smartest decision.
Yeah, absolutely, out of every GM.
And maybe the smartest decision isn't to tear it down. We'll have to see what the market's like for all these guys. You obviously keep Jaylen Brown. You probably keep Derek White. He's 30. He'll be good in 2 years from now. Derek White will probably be good until he's 35. He's that type of player. You 100% have to trade Drew Holiday, who's old. And Kristaps Porzingis was already not reliable for you. You damn sure don't want to have him be unreliable for you in a year where you're probably not best served trying to compete. So at the very least, you got to trade those 2 guys. Is the market even going to be robust for those 2 guys? I guess you can imagine Drew Holiday probably fetches some good offers. Does KP have that kind of trade value right now? I don't know.
Because of his archetype, being big and not a liability defensively, and being a shot blocker and also being able to shoot at the way he's been known to, at least, I think he's going to be perfect. His trade value is going to be hold up very well, and a lot of teams will be feeding for him personally. If I'm someone like Brad Stevens, I look at this team, and of course I'm cutting all the loose ends in Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, like we said, and I'm focusing on rebuilding the Al Horfords of the world. Who can be my next Al Horford? Who can be the next Drew Holiday for me? How can I restock and refill up this bench and make this even stronger and prepare myself for this second?
Al Horford might have some value. Al Horford might fetch something. I'm not gonna lie. He's old as hell.
It is hard,
but that's a real valuable player to a lot of teams that need a stretch 5. Exactly. Al Horford might have some value on the open market.
Exactly. How many guys? If Al Horford was, forget 10 years younger, 4 years younger.
Oh my God.
Oh, 3 first-round picks.
That's what I'm saying. Like you are not finding centers who can move their feet laterally like this and contest and be able to move with guards and be able to pop out and hit threes at a high clip and do all that stuff on top of all of the leadership and character stuff that he brings to your team and to your locker room. Like he's probably going to be there because we've seen it, well, hopefully, but we've seen how close him and Jason Tatum are. And so like just from like the outsider perspective, it would be nice to have some homies in the building while you're going through your rehab and not everybody be gone. But obviously it's very expensive to keep the homies around. So we'll see how everything goes. But this whole thing it's obviously tragic. But again, this is like I don't know. It's a
lot of people
situation.
give Jason Tatum shit, and I think that this trade or injury will hopefully like help calm down people a little bit when it comes to it. And like
bozos on the timeline last night that were clowning him too.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the time, whenever like we're over here trolling him, it's never like super serious. Like we actually don't think he's bum or bad or whatever the case may be. Legitimately, he's gone off to the best possible start that any young superstar could ever imagine. Of course, things were set up pretty well for him, but he had to earn and harness the trustworthiness of being the next superstar while also working on so many aspects of his game, whether it be there's a certain point in time, I think around like 2020, 2021, where he just literally like refused to get to the rim and was not a good rim finisher or whatever. Okay, cool. Next year develops, he fixes that part of his game, but his jump shot ends up getting a little bit broken, and he puts on a ton of mass and a lot of weight because he's getting to the rim by force. Okay, cool. 2 years ago, a lot of people were getting on his ass about, like your ability to make good late game decisions is so fucking bad. Very next year, we see that start to all come together. And now he's the type of player who's been on 5 or 6 All-NBA first teams, routine All-Star, won an NBA championship. He's always in the conversation for being one of the most valuable players in the league. Like his resume is astounding.
Yeah, he's a player that's
organization's dream.
He's a player that's constantly gotten better every single time something's been asked of him, constantly risen to the occasion. I'm glad you mentioned the fact that like every path that he went down was like he took every step needed to rise to the level of getting to the superstar, top 5 player in the world level. Went through the humps being a supporting player in 2018 when they were a disaster. Made it his rookie year. Actually, they made a conference finals. It was the next year of the disaster. I should have said 2019. Supporting player. Young all-star, superstar, can't be the guy. Oh, he is the guy. Oh, he won the championship. Every single step along the way, he continued to provide value to his organization. So, yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully people kind of, especially the Iron Madness of his game. He never misses goddamn games.
Exactly.
So people are going to feel that. They're going to feel that void in the coming year when he's not there to be consistent for this team.
I promise you're going to feel it a lot, especially if you see the stuff that you saw last night from the Boston Celtics over the course of next season, you're gonna feel it a lot because having Jaylen Brown as your number one for the whole season, especially like last.
You remember that fan club that consistently thought that Jaylen Brown was better than Tatum? Now was your time to shine.
Oh, brother.
Listen, they are on a 1-year prove it deal, right? Like you have to go out and show me because Jaylen Brown in this series overall, and especially last night, you saw a lot of his weaknesses be highlighted. You saw some of the shooting. You saw the handle once again be a topic of conversation and be really, really exposed. And so going through.
That's how the injury happened last night.
Huh?
That's how the injury happened last night.
Exactly, off of a Jaylen Brown turnover. And so going into next year, you're going to be rolling on Jaylen Brown ball. The good thing is, and this is the good and bad thing for the Celtics and for Celtics fans, that the Eastern Conference is not strong. Yeah. So in a situation where you might want to tank, you might not be able to. Like the East might give you 6 or 7 wins that you might not want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously just fresh reaction. Literally the news finally was confirmed today. We'll see. There's so many options the Celtics can go down with this roster and the amount of assets they have or don't have in any different areas. Going to be a big offseason for Brad Stevens. If he navigates this correctly and takes advantage of this unfortunate opportunity that he's been granted to tank and maybe get a top pick in a pretty goddamn stacked draft, if that goes to plan, could be a masterclass. But either way, highly unfortunate. No matter what, you don't ever want to lose a season of contention when you have a win-now roster.
Exactly.
But maybe they'll find a way to find as much value as they possibly can of the worst case scenario.
They've done this before, though. Over the last, 18 years now, you had the big three trade that they were able to swindle and, get KG off of the Timberwolves on a golf course deal type thing.
Yeah.
You have that. You're able to get out of that, completely fleece the Nets and get all of your picks. A couple years after that, you have the Isaiah Thomas situation where that he has a jacked up hip. You're able to flip him for Kyrie Irving and then start moving on into a new era. Obviously, it didn't go well, but still getting Kyrie on your team is massive. And then to navigate from that and having a player of Kyrie's caliber at the peak of his powers really kind of, disintegrate your team structure, and then you're able to flip and keep moving and keep evolving. It feels very natural.
Yeah,
that like in 2 years the Celtics are going to be, solid and right back to where they normally are.
Yeah, he slipped his way out of a Kyrie Irving, stumbled into Kemba Walker. Okay, ran into someone like Malcolm Brogdon, and of course Marcus Smart was there, and that's when he randomly won like a Defensive Player of the Year. He's one of the most proactive GMs, and he's one of the top two, maybe the best GM that the NBA has to offer right now. Because when it comes to the list of mistakes that he's made, it's not much.
He's definitely up there. He's definitely a great basketball mind. We'll see where they go from here. Recent donations for move on to the next topic. Shout out to Mo Butler for tipping $5. Shout out to Kevin Galicki for donating $20. He said, Donovan, your boys got it. I'm rooting for the Knicks from now on, but things are bad when the only source of happiness over the entire summer is the fucking Red Sox. But Tatum will be back.
It's a long summer.
Are the Red Sox a disaster right now?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about baseball.
I think so.
Shout out to Shiv for tipping $3. Appreciate you. Shout out to Horse of Jokic for $1. And shout out to Jorgen, I can't read that from here, Jorgen K92 for $10. Appreciate you all.
Yeah, George.
All right, man. We talked about the Celtics and the unfortunate injury. We had to get that out of the way. It is the most pressing story of the week. But after that, we got to talk about another story that has changed the landscape of the NBA. Oh, my God. Cooper Flagg is the Dallas Maverick. When you thought that Nico Harrison would pay the blood debt he pays to the universe for making the worst decision a GM has maybe ever made in the history of the NBA, karmic debt did him well. The universe said, we got you, Nico. They're being too mean to you. And they gave this motherfucker, Cooper Flagg, the number one pick. They had 1.8% chance of landing this pick in the lottery, and it goddamn happened. Oh, my God. How are y'all feeling for the Dallas Mavericks fans, for the organization, for Nico Harrison, for Cooper Flagg? How do we feel about this for him from his perspective? Give me all your thoughts.
The sensible person in me says, listen, a 1.8% chance is still a chance, right? Why have a lottery if people at the bottom can't win? This is the whole point of having a lottery. The other side of me says, Adam Silver, shout out to you. You put on your David Stern hat, you read this whole thing, and you got it popping, right? You understood, you needed views, right? Everyone's been talking about ratings. You said, I know what to do. Let's get the 25, 26-year-old superstar, get him into the biggest market in the league. And you know what? If you do that, guess what? Another white star for you. I got you. The amount. It's very, very hard for me to be like, yeah, like the league is rigging it, da-da-da. But when stuff like this happens, you just got to be like, hey, man, maybe they're right. Maybe they're onto something.
Yeah, I don't believe it's rigged, but I cannot argue with you. If you want to say it is and you want to go that route, go for it. It's more fun for me to let you have it. I don't want to be like,
you got it, man.
It's so hard to argue that it is not rigged, bro. How the hell do you, again, do one of the biggest sins in the history of basketball, probably the biggest, in trading away someone like Luka Doncic after you're freshly off of your first finals trip since like 2011, and you're rewarded with one of the best white prospects of all time?
what the fuck?
And you're given, and you're allowed to go ahead and follow through.
Triple white.
You're allowed to follow through with the history of what your organization basically stands on, bro. He is not only a seamless fit on any basketball team or whatever the case may be, but especially on this team too. Like, he is what exactly someone like Nico Harrison would salivate over.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that there was no dirty work behind the scenes. And I'm a fan of it because at the end of the day, this is what everybody says. The game is not only about a bucket. it's about $1 right there. Bro. It's about $1.
See, here's the thing. I'm totally. You guys want to jokingly say it's rigged, play it, whatever.
I'm dead serious.
If you believe
It's rigged.
I don't care. The thing
I'll
is,
lay out the case
fair enough, but wait.
specifically for this one.
first, I get it. Go for it. It's fun to talk about it in that way. It absolves Nico Harrison of blame to be like, listen, man, that was the plan. The league said we got to get Luka to LA and they'll reward you. Nico always knew it was calculated. No, this motherfucker's an idiot. And he got insanely lucky. Yeah. Nobody's ever gotten this lucky in their life to make up for the worst decision ever, to put yourself back on track after you fought valiantly to be off the track.
That motherfucker made a deal with the devil. I don't give a damn, bro.
And he lost on both fronts. He got nothing out of that relationship. The devil ran through him. The devil ran train on Nico Harrison.
He ran off on his ass.
And yet, he got rewarded and bailed out. So you can call it rigged. I call it a lucky motherfucker getting lucky. It is so much worse when you frame it that way, that this wasn't some higher power saying we got you. It was the universe bailing this idiot out.
There was reporting today that said the Mavericks are taking Cooper Flagg and they are not entertaining any trade for the number one pick. Nico made it very, very clear. I'm not that dumb. I'm taking Cooper. The naive people who say that the league is not rigged will tell you that 8 of the last 11 lotteries have been won by teams with the highest odds. However, since 2018, I believe.
When they changed the lottery odds.
Yes, when they flattened the lottery odds. Because before that, the worst team had a 25% chance of getting the top pick, and then
that's a meaningful difference to what it is
really
now.
Is.
People don't realize that's a big difference.
Yeah.
It's over a 10% difference.
Yeah.
And so now the top 3 teams have a 14% chance. The last 3 times, right? It was like a team with a 14% chance got it. But before this year and before the Hawks, the last 3 times did it. And then before that, it was the Pelicans who rose up and got there.
Yes, and guess what? Ironically enough, the Pelicans that year were dead last in revenue.
They were.
Dead last in revenue, bro.
They were. And I'm glad you said that. This is what I'm talking about, keeping your third eye open. Now, again, that's what the naive people will tell you. It's like, listen, the top people still get it. However, by flattening the odds, you can make it more deceitful to slide people up and down, right?
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. If I'm a cheater, hey man, I ain't gonna lie. Back in my entire college tenure, I cheated like a motherfucker. A+ straight on everything.
I told you that.
But I could not cheat consistently.
I told you.
I could not cheat consistently though.
We know.
Did he just try to diamond test my degree?
I told you.
We can address that later. But in general, the best cheaters in the world don't get straight
College is not
A+ on
accredited.
everything. You get like an 89, 88, maybe a 78 here and there. But for the most part, you're going to make sure you do what needs to get done.
Yeah. Well, we can talk a lot about the state of the lottery after this conversation, because it's actually quite interesting. Is this flattened lottery odds even good? Do we like the conceptually? But we got to talk about the fact that the Dallas Mavericks entire, just like,
These
the runway of what they
just
can
changed.
do, the runway of what they can do as a franchise is completely different than it was yesterday. Like, they hoped they'd get lottery luck, right? They obviously knew they had a good pick and was hoping it can be high. Maybe we can inject Dylan Harper into this, inject VJ Edgecombe into this. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe we'll get lucky. I can't imagine they ever dreamed of getting this goddamn lucky. This changes everything. Their whole thing of trading Luka, we want to win now. We want to win now with defense, veterans. We have 2 33-year-old stars. We're riding with them for however long the window is. And obviously that window got fucking shattered by Kyrie Irving's injury. Mm-hmm. Now it's incredibly complicated because you still got the healthy 33-year-old star. You have the other one that will come back probably towards the playoffs. And you have a young, probably star. We all think Cooper Flagg will be a goddamn superstar, who is an amazing defender, does fit this ethos, but he's goddamn the youngest player in the draft almost. He's 18 years old. How does that fit this timeline? Do they change that idea? Do they get sensible? Do they trade Anthony Davis and just say we're building around Coop?
No.
Probably not.
No, it makes sense because, again, you know that he's ready-made, and like obviously there's always a learning curve with young players and their defense, but he, if nothing else, right, any and all questions about Cooper Flagg have been on the offensive side of the ball. And it's not even like, is he going to be a good offensive player? Yeah. It really is he going to be 30 points or like...
What version of a great player is he going to be?
Yeah, that's the only question. The floor that everyone is basically at consensus at is that worst case scenario, it's going to be like a Kevin Garnett situation where he's going to score like 22, 23 points per game, and he's going to be one of the most impactful defenders in the league. That is amazing. And so to add his defense with Anthony Davis, with Derek Lively, with everything that they're doing, his offense, whatever level you think at, it's going to be.
He take his time.
It fits.
Exactly. Yeah. And I view this similarly how the Boston Celtics initially, when they signed Kyrie Irving and whatnot, and they still had a super young Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Tatum had the ability to take his time and wasn't rushed into any stardom. Now, obviously, the whole thing was convoluted, and they just the whole recipe was fucked because of the Kyrie thing. But looking back at this now, this feels like more of a reformed version of what Boston did back in the day in terms of NBA, in terms of hierarchy, and now Cooper Flagg is given all the time in the world still behind not only one superstar but two superstars in AD and Kyrie Irving to slowly ingratiate himself into being that guy.
It's a little bit more of a muddy version of that, I think, so instead of the other way around, because that team kept a ridiculous amount of future first-round picks and had all their own picks when they added Kyrie. So they had Tatum, Brown, Smart, Kyrie, and Gordon Hayward, now Horford. They did the two timelines thing at once, while also having all the assets in the world to continue to go down either path they wanted. This team is fully all in. No young core, no future picks that matter. I think they have a little bit.
It's Max Christie, and that's it for young core.
And their pick situation is muddy at best. And now you inject Cooper Flagg into that. So it's kind of the opposite, I think. It's a little bit muddy that you can, one, try to fit Cooper Flagg into this current timeline and just say, we'll win around the current stars we have, take it from wherever it goes after these 2 years. We'll take that when the time comes. But you can do that. I guess they could win a chip if Kyrie comes back 100%. They'd be in the mix. They'd be a fucking fantastic team. But you do have Cooper Flagg, and as soon as you get a talent of that level, you're immediately responsible for taking the entirety of their career into account and planning for the future, so you don't enter a point where they turn 26 and you got goddamn nothing and you got to move them. In 5 years, he'll be 24, entering his prime. Anthony Davis will be 38. Kyrie will be 38. Those motherfuckers will be retiring. What will they have in that time? Because they can't spend these 5 years gaining a young core. They won't be able to have their picks to slowly build it with high picks. A lot of those picks are gone or pick swapped. So they have to really, really be nimble in how they decide to take this into account. Because you got to try to obviously win now because that's where your roster is. But you got to keep some eye to the future.
Yeah, but I honestly think that I kind of think it's a little bit overblown because I think Cooper Flagg is he's in a great position. Mm-hmm. We've seen Kyrie be able to play off ball, right? We've seen him be able to do that. We know that Anthony Davis can be very dominant offensively, but he is not dump the ball into AD or give AD the ball at the top of the key. He's going to go get 30 every single night in that way, right? Obviously, he can score 30. He can average 27, but being primary creator number one, that's not him. I think that having 2 years, let's just say 2 years of building up Cooper Flagg, whatever this window is, having him in a team that has championship expectations and championship level stars in Kyrie and Anthony Davis, that's just as important in terms of the intangibles, work ethic, all that stuff. How many times do we see insane talents go to dumpsters like Charlotte and like Washington, and their careers don't pan out anything? I think the fact that you can give him a really good foundation, and in 2 years, whenever Kyrie Irving is aging as he is right now, whenever Anthony Davis continues to age, now you're in a spot where Cooper Flagg, you have grown with these two guys here, you know how they play, and now your on-ball chops can continue to grow, and by that point, oh no, he's going to be 20 years old. He's still going to be so young to where everything can still happen in Dallas for him.
Yeah, I get that's great in theory, but let's say those guys are going to be on the way out. You're not going to be able to trade them and reload around Cooper Flagg. It's going to be, you got to replace these guys in free agency. You got to have young pieces that develop to take their spots. And maybe Derek Lively's that. Maybe they get other good hits. You never know, but it's not a given. So I'm not. No, it's a great thing they got Cooper Flagg. It's fantastic. In their win now mode, it's still a great thing. They're even better now. But it is a complicated situation that they have to navigate with some tact.
I don't even think it's that complicated, to be honest with you. I feel like it's the most straightforward situation ever. It's okay, you have your guy, you have the guy, you have an old-ish supporting cast around you, but also going forward to, yes, they don't have full control of their picks, but they have picks available to their display. All that means is that, you have to be really on your P's and Q's when it comes to evaluating these young players. Their pick cycle restarts completely in 2031, but going on forward, they don't have control of their future picks. They have picks, but it's not their own pick. They're at the at the knees of OKC and a bunch of other
And the Hornets
teams.
from the PJ Washington trade, they got a swap for them. In,
Yes,
I think,
exactly.
2028.
But honestly, right now, if I'm them in the future, you have to be, you're right, super nimble on your feet. And if you have to eventually, I don't know, I'm not saying you should do this, but if Derek Lively has to be traded for the sake of maximizing someone like Cooper Flagg and what he does offensively, do that. Same thing for PJ Tucker. Do that and accumulate more assets and just make smart moves before they like you shit yourself all over the floor.
Yeah, it's also just my bad. It's also just where the league is right now. I'm at this point. I don't think I'm ever really worried about like, oh, are they going to be able to retool? Some star gets upset. There's always going to be like there's going to be an all-star caliber, whether it be low level, high level, right?
That wants to play with him one day. Yeah.
You are going to be able to trade for a player like that in any given time. And by the time Cooper Flagg is ready to be top dog number one, there's going to be somebody there for the trading.
Yeah. Most time, sometimes though, we see teams like the Anthony Davis Pelicans who were drafted in no young core, but they're too good right away. Like Luka, they know they tried the KP things. Their one swing at their picks didn't work. If Kyrie didn't torpedo his trade value, it would have been kind of tough to get a championship core around Luka.
But he did. There's people who do that all the
Yeah,
time.
People always refuse to get a go shot.
Shit happens, bro.
It happens every 4 years. There's always a superstar who doesn't say things in the media gets traded for nothing. I mean, there might be.
But things always tank itself. Like the Kevin, like with the Kevin Durant thing in Phoenix, like who the fuck saw that happen?
KD, Devin Booker,
Giannis now, like shit
those
just be
motherfuckers are
happening.
gonna get traded for a lot.
D. Mitch,
Those guys aren't
Giannis,
cheap.
De'Aaron Fox, like that's what I'm saying. Even guys on that level, you can go out and find somebody that's right there. That's what the 27th best player in the league and create some type of a duo. There's going to be a window, and so my honestly biggest thing that I'm very curious to see is how the Mavs fans react to this franchise over the next year and a half.
Yeah.
Because you obviously like you traded Luka, you were so out there bringing coffins to the stadium. We're so done. Everyone, there was death threats and Nico Harrison, all that. You have Cooper Flagg right here. The team is gonna be pretty solid next year. You know, yeah, they'll be fine. They'll be in the playoff mix, whatever. Are they going to embrace Cooper Flagg? Are they going to embrace the Mavs?
Yes, 100% they will. Now they can stop pretending to be Lakers fans because they're going to get a new great white hope to latch onto. This is the best thing ever for Mavericks fans. They get to be saved from their personal eternal hell that they were going to be in for the next 5 years, rooting for a team that obviously can't win. Now they can latch onto a new young star. This will save the fan base, I think. Like, this is like...
Now when the Lakers come into town
before,
and Luka gets Cooper on the switch.
bro, I don't think you understand.
Who are they rooting for?
They're going to say fuck Luka so fast once they see Cooper take shape and look like a future star. Fans are fickle. They will move on. So Cooper's that level of player. If this was like a different tier below, like I'd be like, maybe it's, we'll see.
Like
if
if they got to
accept
pick
him.
number 2, it's different, bro.
Cooper is Cooper. He's going to be a
Exactly.
star. It's going to be, that's going to be different.
You know what's so funny? The Dallas Mavericks news landing the number 1 overall pick is, of course, the great conversation. It's the most shocking thing ever. But it completely swept under the rug the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep.
Lucking the fuck up and getting pick number 2.
All right, let's talk about the rest of this lottery. Chat, well, I'm going to read some donations real quick. You guys let us know who is your biggest winners and losers of the lottery so far. What's your biggest takeaways? Then we'll talk about the rest of this. First, shout out to Lincoln for tipping $5. We appreciate you. He said it was his birthday a few days ago and he got a T3 shirt.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate you.
Shout out to you.
Nice.
Thank you.
He said, also, do you guys think Mo says when it comes to or of the world more? That's a close one. People sleep on the when it comes to. Of the world gets the attention. When it comes to has high volume.
But they're very much together.
When it comes to the blink of the world.
But-
yeah.
Which has more scalability?
I think
When
it's
it comes to.
when it comes
Yes,
to
Yeah, when it comes to you.
Exactly.
definitely that.
Shout out to Rasta, I don't know what that says, for tipping $12.34. Appreciate you. Shout out to Johnson for $5. Shout out to Eye of Avocado for $15. And yeah, that's everybody. We appreciate y'all. All right, man, let's talk about the rest of this goddamn lottery results because it's quite interesting. The worst 3 teams in the league all fell out of the top 4.
This is the first time that's happened.
Highly, highly unfortunate. And for that to happen, obviously the Mavericks moved up to number 1. The Spurs moved up to number 2. Dude, for a good 3 minutes during that, I was like, oh my God, we're going to get Wemby and Cooper. This is going to be awesome. Then it happened to the other Texas team. But it almost happened to the Spurs. At number 3, we got the Philadelphia 76ers. Seemed like we almost got Cooper coming in to save the Embiid era, which also would have been pretty cool. Then the Hornets got 4, and you see the Jazz, Wizards, and Pelicans with the 5, 6, 7.
I love how Adam Silver said, you know what? Fuck all y'all. We were over here arguing who deserves some like Cooper the most. I was like, maybe the Hornets do. You're like, fuck no.
Thank God they didn't
Charlotte
get him.
does not deserve shit. Maybe the Wizards do. They have a cool defensive infrastructure. No one gives a fuck about the Washington Wizards. Utah Jazz. And then Adam Silver just kicked all these motherfuckers down. It's hilarious.
So obviously, the next talk of the town became the Spurs at 2. Because in the same day this happened, Shams Charania reported that, again, this is kind of a nothing burger report. It was really, really not substantial. But he said that Giannis is open to the idea of playing elsewhere next year, which he's not committing to anything. We'll see where it goes. He still has meetings to make with the Bucks. We'll monitor the situation, but he wouldn't report that for no reason. So clearly they wanted that specific light verbiage to be out there. If you ever had to draw up a Giannis trade package, the number 2 pick and the number 14 pick is a damn great place to start.
Bro, Giannis to the West is so cataclysmic for the East.
It makes. Bad. I mean, if he went to the East, it would be the worst that the East is. But like the East was able, obviously we all knew that it was bad for a long time. But having LeBron in the conference still kept it up, right? Because you still have a finals contender and somebody who's going to make deep runs that you know is still fairly respectable. But if he goes out there, why, if you are in the West, why would I ever pick a team in free agency to go out west if I'm trying to win? Like I'm
and with Tatum missing the whole year,
yeah,
the East is nothing. It's just gonna be the Cavs and the Pacers beating the shit out of everybody. And Joel Embiid coming back. Oh, and the Knicks. Like 14 teams.
That wasn't even by on purpose.
It wasn't on purpose. Yeah,
I love that.
But like, the Cavs might win 68 games.
Say Joel Embiid before the team that's in the conference finals. Embiid's knee is falling so completely off the bone. He's like, yeah, he's still dominating.
That wasn't on purpose. But like, tough. Yeah. I mean, shout out the Knicks. I mean, whatever. But it's not going to be a stat conference, to say the least. It'll be easy pickings. It's like the first round of the playoffs is going to be a bloodbath. Might be 4 sweeps. Yeah. You might have the goddamn Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs next year. It's going to be ugly. So, no. But, I don't know. How do you guys feel about this new lottery system being flattened out? Like we said, the bottom 3 teams fell out of the lottery. And there's a lot of debate. People were saying, how do you expect these shitty small markets to get better if they don't consistently have the natural system that every other league has, that if you are poor, you're rewarded with the best players so you can have some parity over time. These teams, with the way free agency works and the way star power works in the NBA, they're not going to pick the goddamn Jazz. They're not going to pick the goddamn Pelicans. So if they're not going to have a good chance of getting a top 4 pick, or not even just a good chance, a guaranteed chance, how can they rebuild? Some people say, boo-hoo, the NBA doesn't want tanking to be how you rebuild. They want this to be a lottery. It's supposed to be random. Where do y'all fall in that debate?
How you feel?
When it comes to me personally, I think that, yes, like the odds probably should be reverted back to what they once were, or hell, maybe even do it NFL style and just be like, okay, like worst record, you get it's chronological. Worst record, you get the best pick, and so on and so forth. Maybe not to that extent now that I think about it, because with the way NBA teams got to tanking, aka Sam Hinkie especially, specifically, back in 2013, 2012, or whatever the year might be, teams can get real egregious. And I think it needs to stay that way, because right now we're about to witness naturally, like most star players are going to revert to the Western Conference because of better weather, markets, whatever the case may be. But because of the predicament that we're in now as a league, we're about to see the most lopsided talent disparity probably in fucking history, bro, when it comes to these two conferences. And I think my prediction is over the next 2-3 years that things are going to change in terms of the lottery. And I fully believe in that, because it's complete bullshit if I'm a Utah Jazz fan or a Charlotte Hornets fan, or even maybe even the Washington Wizards and their new regime of a front office who's been doing the right thing ever since they got rid of Bradley Beal. Like, you feel so hopeless, because this is how you should rebuild. I understand, like, the league hates watching teams just sell out, but I think that's literally the only way. And that's the only way, and there's no real ethical way to bring things back out, because the rich are rich and the poor are poor. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And at this point, it's to embarrass yourselves in an organization for a year, maybe 2 years max, and then things will be back up.
Yeah, I mean, also people will say draft better, develop well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously. If you can draft a star at number 6, it's possible. It's obviously possible. But the point isn't, is it possible? Obviously, teams can get better with the system. When you look at these things, you got to look at it in macro trends over time. obviously, the higher the pick, the better the odds are that person being a star. So while it's not impossible for them to do well from the 5, 6, 7 spot and find their Donovan Mitchell, find their countless other stars you can name that got drafted outside of that, very possible. It's obviously going to happen less than if you were to do a traditional system like every other league that just does it in reverse order.
Yeah.
There's a reason you see more parity in other leagues probably. So I don't know. It's an interesting debate. I think it is like logically kind of fucking weird that we do a lottery, but it's so ingrained in the history, it's never going to change. But like, it doesn't like make sense to do a lottery, you know? Like, I don't know why it initially started for entertainment or whatever. We're here now. It's part of the history. That's how the game works. But it is kind of weird when you think about it.
Yeah. Listen, because of the nature of basketball, everyone's been comparing it to the NFL, but like you can't tank in the NFL because if you do, you're going to die. Like you can't purposely go out there and do that. And then also you have only 16 games. It's a much different structure, right? And literally every play is a car crash. So again, you can't really do that. In the NBA, you can come into the season and say, we are going to win 10 games this year and we're going to do it. In the NBA, as long as you have a draft and as long as you say the worst team is going to have the number one pick or a chance at the top pick, teams are going to turn around, put their hands on their knees, and bust it down for the number one pick. They're going to do everything that they can.
Yes,
and
as they should.
It is what it is. I understand that it's egregious. Whether you have the old setup where you have 25%, whether you have this setup where even at 14%, which again is a massive drop off from 25%. Even at that, you have teams like the Utah Jazz coming up with fake injuries and the Sixers doing all of this crazy stuff to really put out some of the worst lineups that we've ever seen in the sport at a chance to get the number one pick. And so the only way that none of this is going to happen is you get rid of the draft entirely, and that's just not going to happen.
And I think you probably do need a lottery in the NBA just because there's so many games that in the NFL, if somebody wants to try to lose 5 straight games and play their backups, it's only a month. And if the NBA, 82 games, tanking for that long, that's... You can't have that. You can't have a team trying to go 0 for 82. That's a lot different from 0 for 16. That's a lot of games.
I mean, people do it in baseball, especially when they're like trying to, shed salary and stuff. And it's
not a very healthy league right now.
No, there's a lot of
other issues.
But it's like 162 games. Being able to go, that also sucks. To be on a bad baseball team, you're losing every day for 6 months.
That's terrible. So obviously we don't want that in the NBA. I understand that's why the lottery exists, just for the nature of lots of fucking games are played. But I don't know. Some people say that this system with the flattened odds makes it so they don't reward blatant tanking. I guess. I think we've just seen more teams that want to tank because they know if they sneak into the 10, 11, 12 spot, they might be the Hawks, might be the Mavs, and move up to 1.
Yeah.
So I think we see a higher volume of teams tanking. I don't know if it's like saving it so less teams are tanking. I don't know if that's actually the outcome. I know people have this like visceral response. They're like, good, you tank egregiously, you shouldn't get rewarded. That's not good for the game. You're not seeing less tanking with this, I don't think.
I agree. Go ahead.
It's a balance, and the way that we do it right now is really weird because one of the main things that Silver has always preached is that he wants parity across the league.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing with this lottery and with the CBA, where do you want that parity to come from? Mm-hmm. And there's the idea that you don't want to reward incompetence, which is whenever teams are bad for years on end and they tank. Like that's what it feels like.
You say that?
That's what I'm saying. That's what people say. But it's like this is how you kind of keep. So do you want to force parity from the bottom up or take it from the top down, where you're not letting the top teams be good for a long time because of the CBA? That's the discussion that you have to figure out. People
say that don't want to reward incompetency, and like I used to think that too. But listen, man, there's gonna be bad teams. There's gonna be teams that aren't as good, aren't as breaded. It's not. I don't think it's productive for the league to be like, you suck. Stay trash. Continue to be that. How you fix incompetency and make it so fans don't have to watch their team be the 15 seed every year is you give them the best players. That happens in the NFL. There's incompetent ass franchises across the NFL. Cheapskate motherfuckers. The Bengals don't pay anybody. They're cheap as hell. They did terrible. They got Joe Burrow. Did terrible again. They got Jamar Chase. And now they've been competent strictly because of that. Not because they did anything right outside of that. So at a certain point, I understand not wanting to reward incompetence, but I think it's important for the league to not let fans have to watch incompetence every year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to double down on your side as well, I think the NFL in general is a terrible comparison when it comes to talking about the draft odds and shit like that, because of course it's a numbers game. The NFL has seven first round or 7 rounds of the draft continuously, compared to just like 1, 2. I guess that the NBA is making it a 2-day thing now these days. It just takes one specific individual to change the entire course of an organization's trajectory over the next 10 years.
Bro, if the Bengals didn't have the number 1 and 4 picks, they'd be winning 2 games a year. If they got lucky and drafted at the number 7 spot every year and drafted bullshit, they would win no games.
And I think they've been doing entirely too much when it comes to the CBA thing. I'm not a humongous fan of what they did as of late when it comes to the second apron thing. I think they're doing entirely too much, and they're being way too greedy with how they're trying to control and have these organizations build themselves. Mm-hmm. That's where this whole thing that's where it becomes an issue for me.
Yeah, and the point that you said about the Bengals, that is exactly the point. Is that you can have the number 1 and the number 4 overall pick. You can get a top 5 quarterback and one of the best wide receivers in the league. You can have 2 of the best 5 players at their position. And you still have to develop them. You still have to get a team around them. Like, yes, that's where it starts, but you have to give them an opportunity. And so now, like in the NFL, I guess the Bengals are just the poster child for this, right? We're
piece of shit franchise.
Yeah, we're just using them. But they are at a disadvantage because, one, they suck and they've sucked for a long time, and because small market bias, all that other stuff. Giving them an opportunity to be good. And imagine if you did have Cooper Flagg in Charlotte. That would be an opportunity for the league to say, look at this market. We're going to big up the Hornets. We're going to do all of this other stuff. And then that now puts the pressure and the onus on the Hornets to say, we have this talent. We have to grow and we have to develop them. And it gives them an opportunity. And that's just good business. That's good for the health of the league. But there's so much more that goes into creating a champion that even competent teams, it sucks that it happened, but even teams like the Celtics, you have one of the best teams that you've seen in the modern NBA history. And something wild like a Jason Tatum injury can go down before you get to a champion. Everything has to go right. Giving a team an opportunity through the draft, I'm with you. I don't think it rewards incompetence. I think that's the correct way to go about creating parity in the league.
Yeah. I think, obviously the NBA to NFL is a hard comparison because the nature of the games are so different. The nature of the cultures are so different. And basketball in general is a big sample size sport. There's 150 possessions in a game. The better team is more often going to make more shots than the worst team. The NFL, there's just a lot more variance in that game because it's a small sample size. Every team gets like 7 drives for some slow games. So crazy shit happens. If you're a bad team in that, you're just way closer to being in striking range of making the playoffs than any NBA team is compared to the teams that are actually in the playoffs. So apples to oranges, you can turn things around way easier in that sport compared to the NBA. So obviously they're not going to be running the same exact way. The fans are going to treat things very differently. So you can't exactly do that comparison, but
Facts.
I don't know. I don't love the flattened odds. I'm not saying they should like not do a lottery or anything, but I understand it. The NBA is in a good place right now, so I don't think it's like horrendous. Yeah. Like parity's good. We have parity. I don't feel like we're better off than we were 5 years ago with these flattened odds. I feel like shitty teams are just going to continue to be shitty, and the fans of the Hornets are going to have a terrible next 7 years with little hope besides praying we get lucky.
Yeah, because they had a top 6 pick, and like they fumbled it this last year as well. So it's like, you still have to do the thing.
Yeah. But shout out to Mavs fans and shout out to Hawks fans for getting lucky. And listen, for everybody that gets screwed over in those terrible teams, there's some mediocre teams that get life injected into them that on the other side of that. So I guess it goes back and forth. Someone said, okay, Lakers guy. Wouldn't it be a very Lakers thing for me to not care about these small teams? I feel like I'm doing the opposite of what you're suggesting. I feel like I should say fuck these small teams if I'm such a Lakers guy.
They also gave you guys the number 2 pick like 3 times in 5 years.
Listen, if they didn't have flattened odds, we wouldn't have got LeBron because we wouldn't have got Lonzo and Brandon Ingram.
That's true.
So, loosely talking here, if you guys were the San Antonio Spurs, what were your prerogative go?
Yeah, let's go back to that. Yeah, because they have the number 2 pick. We did our musing about the nature of the lottery. What should the Spurs do, and should they get Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Let's do it.
Why not, right?
I've been very aggressive with Wemby. I think, and like having him on your team and seeing the ascension that he's already made, you should go ahead and do it. And you have De'Aaron Fox, right? I don't care what you think about, like, is it going to fit? Da, da, da. Get talent in the building, and we will figure the rest out later. If I have an opportunity to get the second best player in the world, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Mo, what do you want to see them do? Because obviously they could take Dylan Harper at 2. They could take Ace Bailey. They could take whoever they want. Maybe trade back a little bit and take somebody who fits them better. Maybe they want to get too big and they draft. Come on. Maybe they do get Ken Knuppel. They trade back for him. They have options at their disposal. Do you want to see them do that, or do you want to see them trade this pick for a star, whether it be Giannis or somebody else?
I will say, for the history of the Spurs organization, they've been known to not make any major trades for any star ever until like 4 or 5 months ago. There's a new set of arms in there. Greg Popovich is also now a president as well. As we all know, he's no longer coaching. And I will say, if Giannis is available, just like you, Donovan, I'm doing whatever it takes to snatch him away from the Milwaukee Bucks. And if I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm pulling their entire arm, trying to get almost everything I can for this trio from that organization.
Bro, Giannis
now,
is 31.
He is 31 years old.
Not old.
110% correct. He's
Not
not
old at all.
old, but also when it comes to his play style, I have real questions when it comes to how he will age, whether or not that will be graceful or not. But that's not the fucking question, because Wemby
Yes, it
right
is.
now as we
No,
speak...
it is a question.
It's semi-question, but Wemby right now as we speak, he's probably going to be like a top 8 player in the world next year. And and having Giannis, who just finally had his first healthy playoff run, I will do anything. I'll move hell on earth to go ahead and get him, because if you look at who's available at number 2 and just the rest of this draft, there's like specifically at number 2, Dylan Harper necessarily doesn't fit perfectly with what you have going on. You just traded for someone like De'Aaron Fox. I'd rather wash my hands clean and get that another humongous talent injection, so you can be seriously taken in the Western Conference next year and waste no more time and do what needs to get
The
done.
age thing is the question, though. Like, if you get Giannis, you have to say, we want to have a 5-year window. Like, Giannis is a freak athlete. Freak athletes typically age well, barring injury. Like, they stay a freak for longer than you would think, and they have a little bit more of a long prime. Like,
Freaks stay freaks.
facts. Freaks be freaking it up until their mid-40s. Look at Shannon. So, obviously players are... If you look at John Wall is somebody who is reliant on his athleticism, and when it went, it went. But he's like a good athlete.
Yeah.
Somebody like Giannis is like the best athlete of all time. So he's more likely to age gracefully, I think, because even if he loses a little bit of a step, he's still more athletic than everybody. It's like why LeBron was 36, still dunking like that. So I do have faith that he'll play well until he's 35. So a
Same.
5-year window is a good window to fit around Wemby.
Yeah.
Like, that's not bad at all. And I don't think staying at number 2 ensures you have like a longer window than that. Like, it's not like Dylan Harper is a sure thing superstar.
That right there is that you don't know what Dylan Harper is yet. And 2, if you do take that timeline, you say, you know, we're going to bet on Dylan Harper, we're going to bet on Stephon Castle. And in 2 to 3 years, we're going to be ready to contend, and we'll have this core. You're going to have to pay Wemby, you're going to have to pay Dylan Harper, you're going to have to pay Stephon Castle. You are going to have this core that is going to be extremely expensive, where if you do this right now and you go get Giannis, you still have, at least you'll have this year where you have Wemby not on a max deal. You potentially can have another year. You have some flexibility to where you can have the second best player in the world and arguably a top 10 player in the world in Wemby. We've seen the return of the double big. You would have the double bigs in the
Bro,
in the
we
league.
think Wemby can be the best player in the world.
That's
So let's
what-
make that part clear. You could have the 2 best players in the world in 3
So
years.
if Giannis in 3 years is like, oh wow, Giannis is starting to slow down. Guess what? We have this 7'5" demon who's scoring 24, getting 12 rebounds, getting 5 blocks a game. Also, he can shoot 3, so the spacing is fine. Like, getting Giannis,
Spacing is crazy.
Getting Giannis makes sense. And then on top of those 2 things, we talk about athletic freaks. De'Aaron Fox is going to be fast to the day he dies. having Giannis and having Wemby and having just downhill
But do
demon.
you think you can get Giannis without giving up someone like De'Aaron Fox?
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Yes.
you want to go De'Aaron. Why
Yes.
would the Bucks want De'Aaron Fox in that situation? They're
you
tearing
can
you
have
down.
you can have the number 2 pick. We can have a conversation if that includes.
So what's the package
Castle?
loosely to you
2
guys?
Castle, 14 salary. But like those 2 elite picks, probably other pick swaps too, because you got to load them up with picks. But 2, 14 Castle, and then whatever other small stuff needs to be stacked up to get there.
Which is the best you are going to.
It's a great deal.
Yeah.
If you're the Bucks, you can restart with
lottery
Castle and
picks.
Harper. That's a good place to start.
Yeah, 2
And then
lottery
14?
picks, the rookie of the year, and the number 2 overall pick,
And then others.
Hella shit too.
Yeah. So the question is, I think, obviously, Giannis, Wemby gives you the ceiling necessary. Makes the De'Aaron Fox trade a little bit more redundant, but if it doesn't work, you could always reshuffle that piece eventually. So that's fine. You don't got to worry about that.
Guess what? Halfback dive, halfback dive, halfback dive. Like we're going to the basket.
You'd be amazing. The question is, their roster is still pretty far away. Their roster outside of their top guys isn't good yet. That was a big thing I think we saw in the first half of the midway through the season before Wemby got hurt after that crazy start. Started to see it normalize. They don't have a bench really. They have 4 good players and a few young guys that could go either way, but like we're still waiting to see how they react and who they are. If you get Giannis, you're contending this year. You have to try to win a championship this year. You don't waste a single year with Giannis. That bench is not ready to win a championship. You get rid of all those assets for Giannis. I guess if you keep Sohan and Vassell and other stuff, maybe you trade them for some veterans, reshuffle things. Maybe you keep Vassell. Actually, you might have to go for money. Whatever. You have to do a lot of other work around that. And if you're blowing your entire load for Giannis, that might be kind of hard to become a deep team, which we're seeing in the playoffs this year. You need depth.
It matters.
But Giannis and Wemby is a little different. It's the best duo in the league immediately, so I don't know.
I'd rather start from we have Giannis and Wemby, let's figure it out, rather than we have Giannis, Wemby, and Fox, rather than, okay, we have Wemby, Fox. Now we have to find potentially another star, or we have to find 6 more guys who can be reasonable NBA players like that can be.
That's not easy though. You said
that's what I'm saying. Finding 6 NBA guys to be championship levels bench players in depth, that is hard to do. That's very hard. So I would rather go and get Giannis and then say maybe instead of 6 we only have to find 4.
Yeah.
Because we have Giannis and Wemby and Fox, and we'll move on from there.
Yeah. And now Giannis is the type of player that like we're saying this equation like do you get the star or the depth? Giannis is not just like enter star X. Like we're not talking about Devin Booker. We're not talking about even D Mitch or even talking about insert star here. Giannis is one of the best players to ever play, and he's as good as he's ever been. He's a top 20 prime in the history of the league. So maybe the answer is you just do whatever you can to get him and you figure the rest out the fuck later. That's probably the real answer here, but it's not an easy path. I think the roster wouldn't be quite as impressive as you'd want it to be after getting Giannis, just because of how.
What do you think their lineup would be after the like initial rough Giannis trade?
Giannis makes a lot of money. I haven't even looked to see what they'd have to stack up salary wise to get him. I can't even answer that because I don't even know if they'd have to include Vassell or not.
Okay,
but it would.
Oh, Vassell's so the fuck gone also.
In that deal,
has to be.
Well, I think you could probably keep one of Vassell or one of Vassell or Steph Castle.
Money wise, I think he has to just be so fucking gone.
Because they have Keldon Johnson makes money. They have
Peace.
Does Harrison Barnes make money, bro?
Harrison Barnes makes a little bit of money. They have what's that backup big's name? He used to play in the Trailblazers. Why am I drawing a blank?
Drew Banks.
Power forward, turn center. No, what the fuck? Collins.
Zach
Collins. Yeah. He makes money. So they had to stack up like all.
Didn't they trade him to the Bulls or something like that?
Oh, did he get traded already?
Yeah.
He's gone.
Oh, what am I talking about? Yeah, he did get moved. Yeah, so that makes it even harder because that's one more salary I was thinking was still there. So I don't know what the money would look like.
They got to get creative.
Yeah, they have to get creative. So the roster will be truly gutted, and Wemby's still young. It's probably a no-brainer to just get that guy, but I don't know. It would be quite an interesting roster building thing after that.
We are in strange times, and bro, the NBA just got flipped on its head.
Crazy, man, crazy.
Can we talk about a very cool possibility?
What, the Knicks making the conference finals?
Knicks Wolves in the finals.
Ooh,
like it's actually on the board now, and I actually think that it's very cool because the Wolves they're gonna win this series. The Warriors they can't score.
Jimmy Butler can't score or chooses not to at least.
There's a little bit of grace that I want to give him because obviously he's obviously not healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's not
Jimmy.
Yeah.
From the butt injury.
Yeah. He's clearly not
Jimmy Booty Butler. Jimmy.
He's not what they need him to be. 9 shots is OD. It's egregious. Like I do need you to put up a little bit more shots, but the Wolves are going to win the series, and so they're going to go and they're going to face either OKC or Denver. In either of those series, obviously I guess in the Denver one since they've beaten them before.
That's a better conversation.
Right.
Obviously, we've all maintained OKC's the best team. I think
but
Denver
the
would be
OKC stuff is interesting now.
It is. I think Denver is giving them a tough matchup. Obviously, Denver's well suited to clog up the paint, and the OKC Thunder haven't been able to make enough shots to make them pay for it. This series is closer than it has been in terms of like most of the minutes. It looks like OKC's been the better team. They just trolled, and they shouldn't be down. It shouldn't be 2-2. So
that's fair.
I think when they return to normalcy, I think they'd beat the Thunder and the Timberwolves. But obviously, I'm gonna think that you know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Denver versus the Timberwolves would be quite interesting because we know the Timberwolves have had their number last year and then this year in the regular season at times. But Denver, if they get past the Thunder, they have unmatched level of lock-in that they're showing. And this Timberwolves team is going to win this series against the Golden State Warriors. They haven't been tremendously impressive, so you can't feel great about the momentum. So I wouldn't know which side to go on that Nuggets versus Timberwolves hypothetical.
All of these games, the Warriors were up at halftime.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the third quarter that they blew it open.
Anthony Edwards went stupid in the third quarter.
We got to talk about him too. 'Cause he's
ascending.
Oh my goodness.
This week's episode we're gonna have a lot to say about Anthony Edwards. We'll get there.
We have to talk. We have to have conversations. But you're right. Like the Warriors were up at halftime in this game. They've been very close in previous games. I don't know. Like obviously the 3-1 looks better than what it actually is. But I do think that Minnesota. I think right now I would pick them against
Denver.
The one thing that scares me is that Denver's 2-2 and Jokic has not played well.
Yeah.
Well, the Timberwolves, I don't think have the ability to lock him down the way that OKC does. I know they did good last year, but they did better against the rest of the team than they did Jokic. Jokic's numbers were so much better in that series last year against them, and Cat isn't there. So Randall's a better fit defensively against teams that are built around mobility. I don't think he's a better fit defensively to stop Jokic per se. But obviously they have Gobert. They know how to defend him. They can do a decent job. But I think we're seeing quite the all-time great defensive performance right now of OKC locking down Jokic. So much is made of Jokic playing like shit, and part of it is clearly him not being in a good rhythm. OKC is putting on a masterclass of defending this motherfucker. He can't move without getting triple teamed. So I'm not going to expect any team to have that level of ability to stop Jokic. So I wouldn't use that. I wouldn't use his bad momentum as a reason to pick against him next round.
I'm not saying that's kind of what I'm saying.
Oh, you agree?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying is that I think I would take Minnesota right now. However, the fact that Denver is 2-2 and Jokic is playing poorly leads me to believe that the next round, whenever Jokic stabilizes or whatever, they have the opportunity to go ahead and beat Minnesota. Which is wild because they could make the finals, and your take that you gave us and then gave up on could be right.
They're not beating the Thunder. Staying on. They're not beating the Thunder. The Thunder have to win. The series is tied 2-2. Obviously, we can talk about that one a little bit. Last game, the first day that I stopped my optimisticness, I was in the second quarter. I was like, fuck this team. I can't believe I believe so much in them. They're playing so unbelievably stupid. They want to lose this game. I'm done. They deserve to lose. They come back, and the Thunder clutch that game, and they out-execute the Nuggets in the fourth quarter, something we haven't seen all series. The only reason it's not 3-1 or 4-0 is because the Thunder sold 2 fourth quarters with terrible execution, mostly on Mark Daigneault and Shea. They didn't do that in Game 4, and we saw the worst game of Jokic's career. How confident are y'all right now the Thunder are going to close out the series, winning 2 out of 3 at home?
60-40?
64, that's it. I mean, it is 2-2.
It's 2-2, and you can say oh yeah, they trolled around. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. You have the MVP on your team, Mr. Consistent, and this is not seeing Shea have these performances is something that's not normal. We're so used to Shea in every situation rising to the occasion and being so steady and being all that, and then seeing Mark Daigneault and him kind of fall apart in these moments. Mm-hmm. It's yo, what? Are you good? Are you okay?
That's what I feel the worst about. Shea, it's mostly about, to me, that the Nuggets are really good at blocking off the paint with their tremendous size. Yeah. Jokic has had a great defensive series because they're really asking him to be gigantic in the paint and Aaron Gordon to be gigantic in the paint, and they're clogging the passing lanes. They're having Christian Brown and Jamal Murray help with the nail aggressively. They're not letting Shea get anywhere. And the biggest flaw I think we're seeing in Shea is his passing isn't good enough to make them pay.
It's been a thing since day one,
and they're exposing that. Mm-hmm. But the Nuggets are really good at that specific scheme because Jokic is really good at playing those passing lanes down there. Most teams aren't going to be as effective at stopping Shea's scoring that aggressively. The biggest thing is these motherfuckers cannot make shots around him. They've had terrible shot making. And Mark Daigneault has had some pretty poor performances. I actually have questions about him and his just late game decision making on who to play. He's given Lou Dort so much leash to be a brick. This fourth quarter, this game got won because he finally benched Lou Dort and put Caruso and Casey Wallace out there, and that's why they won. Took them a while to get there. That game 3 they lost, those motherfuckers ran a basic pick and roll, switching Shea on Jamal Murray every time and letting Shea try to cook him one-on-one for like 9 straight possessions and it didn't work a single time. And Mark Dagnall just kept letting him try into overtime. I was like, why are you letting him do this? Why are you continuing to run the 2 bigs while he does this? So the spacing is terrible. It was so stupid, and they just let Shea do the stupidest thing he could think of for over and over again. And I honestly blame Mark Dagnall for allowing him to do that more than I blame Shea. Like, it was nonsense.
Yeah, I understand that. That 100% makes sense. I agree with you. I've had questions about Mark Dagnall, and I think this series overall, he's been outcoached pretty much every game. What all it just comes down to is, specifically, I could revert to last game that we watched. What won them this game is OKC was able to get into the bonus, I think, so early into the fourth quarter, maybe like 7 or 6 minutes into it, because of a stupid Russell Westbrook steal attempt on Shea. And then that just led to like an avalanche of opportunities to be made on the points, opportunities to be put on the board for the for OKC. And thus we see the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic specifically like let loose intensively on defense, and everything just like swung way open.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I haven't really seen any reason to be concerned about the Thunder yet, besides them shooting themselves in the foot. Like, you said the Denver Nuggets are out coaching them. I guess, but like the Nuggets are kind of just like, they only have one move, and it's to do this aggressive help off, destroy the paint defense, run this zone to not let Shea slash, and say the shooters can't make the shots. And it's just working because the shooters can't make the shots. Like, there hasn't been a tremendous amount of adjustments. It's just they haven't been executing the Thunder. Like, they're really letting the Nuggets stay in this, been able to eliminate Jokic, and how sustainable that's been, because there's nothing the Nuggets can do adjustment-wise. They have 6 playable players. There's no other things they could do. If the Thunder lose this next game, they can bench Dort and start Caruso the whole game. Like, they have other adjustments they can make. They can stop playing the 2 bigs if they need to and try to defend him with 1 big and have better offense. Like, everything they've done has worked besides the shot making and the late game execution that we talked about that they kind of fixed last game. I don't really feel any reason to believe in the Nuggets to close this out outside of the Thunder keep shitting themselves.
I feel like, everything that the Thunder have done, you look at the series, and this series should be like a sweep.
Yeah, it should have been 4-0.
They should have 4-0'd them. It's not. It's not, though. And I'm looking at that, very glass half empty.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have not taken advantage of these opportunities, because, and one thing, and maybe I'm looking at it different than a lot of other people. We've heard time and time
some different shit.
No, because like we've heard time and time again of like, oh, the Thunder, they're the youngest team in the league, and they don't have experience. Man, Alex Caruso has won a championship before. This team made it to the second round last year. It's not like if you were saying this and it was like the conference finals, or if it was the finals, if it was a place that they've never been to before, okay, cool. They literally were just here last year in a situation where they were going up against a player in Luka who was playing at an MVP level. They have seen this. They have faced a white demon in the second round before, and you've had these problems. Mark Dagnall was coaching the team, so when people are saying like, oh yeah, they're the youngest team, I'm not giving them that pass.
I agree.
This is the best team in the NBA.
Yeah.
You look at all of their metrics. This team is outstanding. There is no reason why this series shouldn't be over right now. And the fact that it
100%.
The fact that it is 2-2, that is very concerning for me. And if it was like if you're playing, no shade to my future opponent, but if you're playing like the Indiana Pacers, right? And Tyrese Halliburton, fantastic. He's not Jokic, right? If you're not playing one of the 3 best players in the league, then I would say, okay, you can get away with this. You give Jokic and this team any type of opportunity. I'm not going to say that he's going to go crazy and have this wild 40-20 game, but if it comes down to a couple possessions, I still will always feel good about Jokic, and I'm going to feel good that Aaron Gordon is out here hooping and having an amazing playoffs and an amazing series. So the Thunder need to stop playing around. And Game 5 needs to be a game. Like, if they go down 3-2, I think, obviously, surprise, but like, if they go down 3-2, I don't think they come back. I think the Nuggets win.
If you're on the brink of elimination, that's fair.
That's all.
But you could say glass half full. There's no reason to have a glass half. You could say glass half empty on the Thunder.
Are we heard? Are we here? Yep.
Hold on. Almost. Okay. Oh, there we are. We're back. Okay.
We're back.
Okay,
We're
cool.
back.
Sorry, y'all. Mo pulled the port out with his foot. My bad. We're back.
We're
We're
good.
back.
But what were we saying? I don't even remember.
They need to lock in, and the fact that they are still 2-2 is like, yo, this is weird because you guys are an actually great team, and I'm gonna hold you guys to the standard of a great team and not some wild young deer in the headlights.
With the way
team.
that you guys are talking about OKC, if someone was to close their eyes and not watch a lick or see the series results, they'd be like, yo, like, oh my god, OKC's getting embarrassed right now. Oh my god, OKC is down 3-1 right now. What the fuck?
They were on the brink of it.
That's the thing. Okay, so people do every time they lose a goddamn game, there's so much eulogizing on the timeline. Everybody's saying, I told you not to believe in these young motherfuckers. They have no experience. They can't do it. I told you experience is all that matters. It is so goddamn lazy. Like, yes, they are young. They aren't losing these games because of youth and inexperience.
Exactly.
They're losing this game because of execution, and they're playing horribly in those games they've lost. If they lose this series, it will not be, I told you the young team can never win. This team is a top 5 record of all time. They're tied for 5th, and teams have won 68 games. Obviously, we've talked a lot about they have the second best net rating of all time. If they were to lose this series, it would be one of the greatest failures in NBA history. You can't explain it by youth. It would be simply lack of execution and not living up to the standard that you've clearly shown you are. It won't be the regular season means nothing. It's always been this biggest difference has ever been. No, it would be this team are fucking disappointing to a degree we probably haven't seen outside of the Warriors blowing 3-1. It would be that level of colossus failure to lose in the second round while having this much of a regular season dominance.
It doesn't make sense. We're giving you an opportunity to do the thing that you've wanted to do all year, which is slander Aura Man and be like, yeah, he's a free throw merchant, he's a fake MVP, all this other stuff. And people are not taking it. They have not believed in the regular season, and they are like, here's an opportunity for a guy that a lot of people hate. I'm giving you an opportunity to hate, and people are not taking it. Yeah. They are just that good, and it is wild that it's 2-2. So I'm very excited for the last 3 games. Do you guys? I mean, I guess at this point it makes sense that it would go 7 because it's been very, very back and forth. But do you think that OKC can win the next 2 games? Will win.
Next 2 games?
No,
I think it'll probably go 7. I think OKC in 7. It's gonna go both games at home. The Nuggets home court advantage is like fucking massive. It gets under talked about even still. They had the best home court advantage in the league. They're probably gonna win that game, but I think the Thunder win in 7.
Yeah, I have no idea how it's going to swing out the rest of the series, but I do just feel confident in what he said being earlier, the series going to 7. I lean towards OKC initially, but with the way they've been playing and how Mark Dagnall and Shea specifically have been playing as well, I'm a little bit more shaky on that stance, but I'm still going to hang my hat on that. Would I be surprised if Jokic and the Denver Nuggets persevered through and stole this series? Absolutely. One of the greatest disappointments, like you said, probably in NBA history. But it's Jokic at the end of the day. And if there's anything that a GOAT level player is going to do, it's shit like this.
Jokic is playing horrible. That's right too. They've clearly shown they can lock him up. I will be so surprised if the Nuggets Thunder lose. And obviously surprising things happen every year, so it's very possible. The Celtics and Cavs are about to lose. Surprising shit happens, so that can happen.
Let's talk about it.
But if the series is tied 2-2, they have 2 games at home. Until I see them be at the brink of elimination, I'm not going to overreact just because there's, again, very little that the Nuggets are doing that's working. It's mostly just lack of execution and poor shooting on the Thunder's part. If there was a game that the Nuggets blew them out and we saw the Thunder have no answer for so-and-so, if we saw 4 straight games of Jokic dominating like he did game 1, then I would be like, okay, they can't defend Jokic. That's a clear notch to their belt. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the only reason they have losses is because the fucking Thunder have trolled, that's on them. If they continue to troll, it's a colossal failure, and they are fucking insanely embarrassing. But I'm not going to predict it until it happens.
That's true. However, even in all of this, you do just have to still get credit because Denver, you've stayed in these games. You've been close enough to where you've been able to capitalize on your opportunities, and you've done what you're supposed to do. If we ran this on a spreadsheet, yeah, OKC is supposed to win, but that's why you play these games, and you have to play for 48 minutes. OKC has not done that, and it's cost them 2 games. So shout out to Denver for being in these positions and going and getting 2 of these games.
Their level of lock-in is simply amazing. Like, this team was so on the edge of collapsing when they fired Mike Malone. Their defensive intensity was so bad, and they are defending their asses off. And like they have very little adjustments to make, very little different ways to defend, but they're trying so hard. Their effort is so good. They're so intense that it's working. They're defending so much better than you possibly could have expected them to. Shout out experience and veteran leadership for them. They clearly have just the best execution we've seen from a starting 5 in a long time.
Michael Porter Jr. is about to lose his shoulder playing, in this series. He's giving it everything he has.
And he's been playing well too. Last game I think he hit like 5 threes or something like that and was uber efficient, doing his thing on offense and trying to do his thing on defense too. Fucking terrific series. For all you Denver Nuggets fans out there, you should not walk away from the series regardless of what happens disappointed whatsoever.
Someone said, so you guys don't think players get better at executing as they play longer? My guy, Lou Dort, has been in the playoffs many times. He played on there in the bubble. He played with CP3. Lou Dort has been in the playoffs plenty of times, and that motherfucker, before this past game, hadn't made a 3-pointer on the road since March. That is not youth. That is not inexperience. This man is an inconsistent shooter. Yes.
Yeah.
Insane.
He went 0 for 16 over the span of a month and a half. Now, granted, they didn't play a lot because they...
Of course.
Yeah, so... But part of it, sure, can be an experience. Maybe Shea,
16 is still bad.
Maybe Shea will get better at passing as time goes on. But these things can be boiled down to actual skills that these players aren't particularly good at times, not just it's youth and they have to get better over time. Like, not everything just magically improves because of time. Sometimes they have weaknesses that are showing their head.
Man, we'll see. We'll see. It's 2-2. If I had to pick right now, I would pick OKC. I've been a big believer in everything that they've done. We've just laid out how great they've been. I think I would pick them, but I don't know, man. Just having Jokic just lurking, it's scary though. It is a little bit unnerving.
Sure. Yeah. The Nuggets have a chance. It's not like wrapped up. When I say I feel good about the Thunder, I'm not saying it's a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee. They lost 2 games, so I can't be up here and say it's gonna be no matter what. You never know. These games are all close margins, but I'm not as worried as I once was about this series. Now that it's 2-2, I think we've seen enough sample size that I feel decent about it. But I don't know. Let's talk about a team we don't feel decent about. The Cavs are down 3-1 and lost by 40 points in the first half of the past game against the Pacers.
It's over, dude. It's never been over more than ever for them.
They're taking all the energy everybody had for the Thunder after game 3, whenever they were calling them frauds, saying they can't do it. The Cavs just like grabbed it by the reins and is like, we'll take that on for you. They're dying for the Thunder sins.
The most annoying part about this series is that people are comparing them to, hey, my 2015 Atlanta Hawks, and I hate that this is happening because it's obviously I'm assuming y'all agree as well that they are not that. They've just been faced with some of the worst injury luck possible when it comes to the postseason on a routine.
The Hawks made the conference finals.
Thank you. The Hawks made the conference finals, and those 3 guys were Garland wasn't there, but Mobley was there for game 1, and they lost that game at home. They had game 2, and they trolled around in the final minute, and they lost that game even without those guys. You go into Indiana in game 3, you got those guys back, and you go and you got a W, and then you came out and had one of the most embarrassing beatdowns in NBA history, and you are down 41 points at halftime.
I feel bad.
I understand that those guys were hurt for a game. You should have won that. When we look back at the series, if they ultimately lose tonight, because the game is going on right now, I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, this Cavs team was decimated by injuries. That's the reason. They had they had opportunities to win this series, and they did not do it.
Sure. Okay. I mean, we don't got to pretend the injuries aren't anything of it. They didn't do the most they could have, but they obviously started behind the 8 ball because of the injuries. Like, they had to be perfect and had to have the championship mentality, all the stuff. They had to rise to adversity because the adversity was injuries. So, like, they did start off. I mean, like, losing Garland in game 1 is not nothing. He is incredibly important in what they do.
They've played without Garland.
Not against a team this good. It's the playoffs. Things are different. They have not a team where you can game plan for no Garland, and this team is playing amazing basketball in the Pacers. It's very important to not have Garland, and he's back now. He looks terrible because he's not healthy. He's playing through it. He's clearly in pain, clearly not what he once was. I don't know how healthy Evan Mobley is, but I'm sure he came back faster than he might have in the regular season. Obviously, Hunter too. Like, the injuries are important. I'm not going to say they're just these chokers that whatnot. The injuries matter a lot.
Even in the game that they weren't there, you're up at the end. And the Pacers come in and score 8 points in like 37 seconds or whatever, right? Like
that's inexcusable.
They should have won that game.
That's what I'm saying. At the bare minimum, this series should be 2-2, right? Because you have games 2 and 3, and then you can say even without Garland, this is also a team. 64 games in the regular season. You've seen them play with certain guards and without certain guards. You've seen them in so many lineups. This is another team that has had a very, very good season. Shout out to the Pacers. They do what they do, and we've talked about them all year long. And that is a very, very much a strength to be able to go in and have a very high floor that the Pacers operate.
Their ceiling is insane right now. I think you're giving them not nearly enough credit. They are playing amazing. Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner.
The ceiling.
Their ceiling is insane right now.
What's the ceiling?
Clearly the conference finals, and at that point, clearly the fucking finals. They can beat the Knicks.
Okay,
their ceiling.
Yes,
they are playing.
I agree with that.
The past 30 games, the last 30 games of the season, they played at a 60-game pace. We didn't overreact because we were like, okay, it's March basketball, we'll see. But we're noticing they've clearly just continued that. Yes, the Cavs should have won game 2. They sold that. These other games, the Pacers are just not to be undermined. They are playing amazing. This game was barely about the Cavs. This was one of the best displays of shot making I've ever fucking seen. Actually, I'm not showing the right game. After that.
In game 4.
Game 4 was one of the best fucking displays of shot making I've ever seen. The Cavs didn't stand a chance. It was like game 2 OKC, where it was just an avalanche, and the game was over before you blinked of an eye.
Yeah.
The Pacers are simply too good right now. I'm playing at too good of a level, capturing the right amount of lightning in a bottle to be able to beat them without full health.
They're
going to beat the Knicks.
I just
wanted to get you mad.
I'm not even gonna.
But actually, they actually very much can and probably will be favored. Like they're at that level.
I agree. I agree with all of that. What I disagree with is the Pacers are so good, and the Cavs need to be at full strength, and they are this level above Cleveland. Again, this series should be. I understand, like, it's the playoffs, and the margins are super thin, right? The Knicks were up 2-0, and they had a differential of, like, +2, right? Because they won both games by 1. I understand that. I understand the margins are super small. But the Cavs had opportunities as a whole
for sure.
to execute and to capitalize, and they didn't do that. And that is, in that specific thing, that is an indictment on them, as well as the Pacers coming out and being a great team that is going to give you every punch. But guess what? You won 64 games. I expect you to be able to handle that in certain situations, and you did not do that.
I know what you're saying.
So now
Two things can be true at once.
Exactly.
I 100% agree with
The
you. I
injuries
think
matter.
a lot of people have undermined the Indiana Pacers and just how good they've been mid-season towards the end of the season in March, and now they're just at an entirely new level. This is a different team. If this team right here was to start playing but way back in October, they're fucking winning 60 games, pushing 70, bro. They're just like that, and they've reached an entirely new level. That's very true. But while also at the other end too, like I agree, like there's no way possible in which you can make an excuse for the Cleveland Cavaliers outside of injuries for this not to be 2-2. It should be 2-2 even with that.
Like, I understand what you're saying. They won this many games. This isn't the same team. Darius Garland is not at that level right now because he's not healthy. So saying you can win all these games in the regular season, but now you can't. This team is is clearly not the same. They are like obviously not the same level of team that won those 64 games because Garland's not that level. Don't know what Mobley's status is. Obviously, Hunter's hurt. Up and down the roster. There's things we can point to. Jared Allen is getting severely outplayed by Miles Turner. So there is ways they're not playing good enough, but there has to be at least some acknowledgement that while, yes, they didn't take advantage of the opportunity they had to the highest degree, the injuries play a factor in that too. We can't completely ignore it.
These motherfuckers are different in Indiana, man.
Yeah, and it's also that. It's also Indiana. Against many teams, they could probably win without Garland. Indiana is just on another level right now. They're clearly playing so well that you need to be at full strength to beat them.
I agree. You know you're so wrong for throwing out those fighting words and saying you have them over the Knicks.
No, it's not.
I hadn't even thought about it, but that's going to be a good series. I don't know who to predict.
It's gonna be be great. And
I genuinely don't know who to predict. That's going to be difficult to come down to.
It's gonna be good. I'm very excited. I think something that has been very exciting for me for the Knicks is that Cat in the last couple games when they have allowed him and really just told him, like, you're just gonna have to come up and you're gonna have to play defense. Like we know the defensive deficiencies of Brunson and Cat, and obviously, like, if you get them into the pick and roll, and we've talked about them switching, and the Knicks said at a certain point, I'm gonna need you to get into a stand. I'm gonna need you to guard. I'm gonna need you to defend. And to Cat's credit, he's had plays against Tatum and against Brown where he's moved his feet well enough to either create a tough shot or be able to alter the shot at the rim. That in itself right there, great development. Is he getting still bad fouls to here and there? Yes,
Yeah,
that's gonna happen. But he's moving and he's had some pretty good moments, and so I'm very excited to see that. I'm very excited to see the fact that Mitchell Robinson is really out here. And we talked before the playoffs. The deciding factor is going to be, are they going to be able to play Mitch and Cat, and is that going to go well? It's gone pretty well.
Yeah.
It's gone pretty well.
That's the part I'm interested in for a series against the Pacers, is that they've needed that against the Celtics because that's their main point of advantage, is to go big and beat them up with Mitch, because they know that Cat anchored defense can't hang with this specific style of play. So Mitch has been the deciding factor there. Cat's a lot better at power forward. I wonder how the dynamic plays out against the Pacers, because Siakam is playing extremely well. Siakam and Turner together are outplaying the shit out of the Cavs bigs. OG can guard Siakam. Yes. So Cat can probably play the 5 better against them than he can the Cavs.
Most definitely.
Just because they don't have the ISO scores.
Yeah.
So maybe you can go back to Cat being the 5. And then, but maybe Mitchell, I mean, you go the 2 big route, maybe you just beat them up down low. I don't know. Can Mitch hang with Turner on the perimeter? It's interesting.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be so interesting to see, because also if that's the case then, and if Miles Turner, for whatever reason, like, gets absurdly irritated and is unable to keep up with someone like Mr. Robbins' physicality, they don't have any more options coming off the bench. Those are their bigs. That's their best response. So I'm interested to see how impactful Mitch Robinson can be on that front.
That's gonna be a great series.
If it happens, we got to lock in. We got to lock in. Close this thing out tomorrow.
I don't think either team is blowing a 3-1 lead. Maybe, I guess the Pacers could. The Cavs are still really good, but neither of these teams that they're placing are healthy. So I feel like it's safe, but you never know. Nothing's goddamn safe. Exactly. This is the most unexpected conference finals probably in a long time. So who knows if it even maintains. Wow. Yeah, man. That's the end of the stream. We'll see. Lots to watch. Game's on right now. We'll go switch to that.
Also, real quick, because I've been waiting for like a week and a half to say, I told you also as well. I did like a semi-victory lap after game 2, but once again, I told you, because you guys were saying the Celtics have not shot well. And I said, you can say the exact same thing for the Knicks, that they have not shot well. They have not played a good offensive game. And in game 4, you finally got the Brunson game. You finally got a Mikal game. OG shot well. And their 3-point shooting actually finally came to a regular level, and they were up 9 whenever the thing happened. So they were always gonna at least have a decent game, whether or not they won that game, regardless.
No one told you they have 0 good games. No one told you they have 0 good games.
Wait, what did we tell you?
We told you that it's not surprising that the Celtics are able to hold them to worse shooting overall more often than not.
I told you guys that, and you guys were like, yeah, whatever. And now we're up 3-1, so hot.
And that's not the deciding factor why. They won other games without that. You can take a victory lap, not because of that.
No, we're up 3-1.
You are, yeah. Like that. It wasn't just because
I'm taking victory laps on everything. I need you to understand that.
Okay,
I need you to understand that.
Okay, congratulations.
Fair enough, man. I feel like it would be, obviously I want the Thunder to win as my number 1 option. Mm-hmm. Number 2, I want Jokic to win. If I could pick outcomes, the Knicks winning would probably be the 3rd most exciting outcome. I don't want to see any of the other teams win. So
you don't want to see Ant win?
Not really. I mean, it would be cool. I guess you can go 4 if you're just talking about like what you want to see. That's fair. That's another good one. But Knicks winning, because they'd have to do that. They'd have to beat the Celtics and probably beat the Thunder, beat 2 of the best teams of the modern NBA. That would be outrageous.
Whoever is on the other side of this, like if the Knicks get to the finals, they're either going to have to beat Jokic, all-time player, Thunder, all-time player and all-time team, or Anthony Edwards, ascending star.
Yeah.
Like
that one would be less impressive. I think they can beat the Timberwolves. Mm-hmm. But if they beat Jokic or the 68-win team, that would be just like, I can't even think of a better Cinderella run than that. Like, I guess it's kind of similar to 2011, but Brunson isn't held in the regards that Dirk is, so that's like different.
Until he gets that ring.
Exactly.
That would change some shit.
If he gets the Dirk ring in New York, oh my goodness. Top 30 all time.
You know why I'm saying this? Because
Top 30 all
Put a
time.
mustache, give him a statue in the Empire Building.
you know
bro.
why I'm saying I want to see them win? Because I've seen all the sidewalk talk videos. And I've seen those fucking insane fans. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if we get the moment of them winning, Jalen Brunson is a god. He's never paying for a
Donovan
meal.
did say we're gonna do a pod in New York if they fucking win.
Yeah.
If they go to the finals, we will be there.
We will definitely.
We will be there.
Gotta hope.
Damn, do I want the Knicks to make the finals?
It'll be.
I can't. We're rocking with the Pacers. We're rocking with the Pacers.
Stay on that side.
We're rocking with the Pacers.
Stay on that side.
Tyrese Halliburton, Finals MVP. And with that being said, we'll see you on Friday for this week's episode.